seismic days that we're seeing. For you, after 2 years of catastrophic war, what does this moment mean to you?
Yes, good morning, Bridget, and thanks for having me. Well, the current ceasefire agreement definitely presents a glimpse of very cautious relief for the civilian population in Gaza after 24 long months of continuous bombardment and repeated forcible displacement. In addition, of course, to all the challenges related to the lack of food and items, shelter items, medical services in Gaza. So we definitely welcome any efforts that can contribute to stopping the bloodshed in Gaza, and we hope that the current ceasefire agreement will hold and will definitely be respected by all parties. That will lead for us as humanitarian actors to be able to respond to the catastrophic levels of the humanitarian needs in Gaza now. Even with the current ceasefire being introduced, this is a new era, a new beginning of dealing with the massive needs of the civilian population in Gaza, who have suffered multiple times of forcible displacement, loss, and destruction of property and infrastructure. So we definitely welcome the efforts that are contributing now to sustaining the ceasefire, but definitely there are more political engagement needed for a long-term settlement plan in Gaza, in Palestine in general.
Are you seeing humanitarian organisations have unhindered access now to be able to deliver food, medical supplies, water, healthcare, shelter materials, those sorts of things?
Well, we hope so. Unfortunately, up until this moment, we are not able to say that there is unhindered access because what we know so far that there will be at least 400 trucks allowed into Gaza, but unfortunately in the past couple of days we've seen anywhere between 60 to 70 trucks allowed into Gaza. But the good news is that we have seen cooking gas being transported into Gaza for the first time in 8 months. But if we look at the figures in terms of the needs, recent figures suggest that we need 1,008 trucks being transported into Gaza on a daily basis to be able to mitigate the most current and imminent needs as a result of the famine and the engineered starvation that was happening in Gaza Strip. So access is still a big question mark for us, and we definitely call for an immediate opening of all crossing, unhindered access of humanitarian aid as well as humanitarian workers that are very much needed on the ground in Gaza.
You've also called on Israeli authorities to not dictate where Palestinian people can resettle in their own homes, you know, where and when and how they do that. Is that happening?
Well, of course, you know, the current ceasefire agreement has multi levels in terms of the demobilization and withdrawal of the Israeli army, which means that significant parts of Gaza Strip are still considered dangerous zones and red areas as per the terminology used by the Israeli army. So we cannot say that at this point the civilian population in Gaza are free to return to their homes because so many civilians are still in Gaza where their homes are still in the red zones or areas controlled by the Israeli army that you know, they might risk being killed if they actually come close to or in the vicinity of the military forces operating inside Gaza. We definitely would like to see that changing in the near future, where people can return to their homes. In fact, we have seen, you know, the civilian population speaking to the media in Gaza saying that they would like to go back to their homes, even if they are rendered into rubble. They would like to, you know, erect their tents and makeshift shelters on top of the rubble of their homes. Therefore, we definitely need an accelerated progress in terms of ending the current humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza by introducing long-term and permanent ceasefire with an agreement that would allow every civilian in Gaza to be able to return back to their homes, and they are allowed to access humanitarian aid and dignity as well.
And thinking more big picture and long term, how could this global solidarity be used as momentum towards better self-determination for Palestinian people?
Yeah, an important question, and thank you for that. The ceasefire itself is only a beginning of a new era. Now, this means only the bloodshed has stopped. The killing, the bombardment, and the repeated forcible displacement have actually stopped. But the large, you know, the gravity and the scale of the humanitarian needs is still immense there. We're talking about nearly 1.9 million people have lost their homes. Let go also the destruction of infrastructure when we talk about road networks, sewage networks, electricity, water networks. The near total collapse of the medical sector in Gaza adds to the challenges of the more than 170,000 wounded civilians in Gaza. Therefore, there is an immense scale of need, and we need that international solidarity to continue. We need also to pressure Israel to fulfill its obligations under the current ceasefire agreements, but also in line of its obligations under international law in regards to allowing humanitarian aid, unhindered access of aid and aid workers into Gaza, to be able to deal with the imminent interim, negative impact of the current war. But there are also reports that suggest that there are lasting impact of the war in terms of the psychosocial status of vulnerable populations such as women and children in Gaza. That will also mean for us as humanitarian actors that we also need to focus on long-term interventions that will also contribute to rebuilding rebuilding the social fabric that was torn apart during the brutal 24 months of this war.
Jamil, thanks for your time. You must be exhausted. We always enjoy talking to you. Thanks so much.
Pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right, let's get